And welcome to another edition of In the Zone's Race Talk Live Online. Bill Britt, Bobby Potts here with you. Joined with our guest already, Lyle Shepard. Lyle, welcome to the program. We're live here, folks, 600 North Santa Fe, Chuck's Bar. And, of course, Race Talk Live Online is produced by Dave Chevaria. We have Dave mic'd up tonight, Bobby, so we can actually ask him some questions.
Oh, boy. Okay, we got her.
That ought to be good. See if we can get him to talk or see if he's really shy or not. So what do you think? NASCAR racing this weekend out at Phoenix. Of course, another photo finish. NASCAR loves that.
That was pretty cool.
What do you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I kind of slept through part of it because
why?
Because of Beatrice.
Uh-huh.
Went to Beatrice on Friday night, and we didn't get home till like 4:30 in the morning. So
4:30 in the morning when?
Didn't get much sleep last weekend.
Did you stay Saturday night too?
No, just
Friday
we
night?
had a wedding. Had a wedding to go to on
One
Saturday
of the Peel
night.
kids got married
Yep,
over the weekend.
Kelly and Kelly got married.
Kelly and Kelly. Yep. Those two are a pair.
Yep. So had a good time.
4:30 in the morning. What was the program like?
It was awesome. They had a record number of cars there. They had over 300 cars there Thursday night just practicing. I mean, the weather was great for it.
Got a little chilly?
Yeah, a little, but I mean, Lyle, you've been there when it's been snowing and raining. I mean, it's like never good weather.
It was spring break weather up there this weekend compared to what has been there before, but that was an excellent show.
Yeah.
The mods, they only took the winner out of each heat. There was a lot of hurt feelings.
I'm sure there was.
Some awesome cars that were on the trailer watching the show.
There was.
And, some of the cars that ran good Friday night ended up not making the show Saturday night. And that's the first time, you and I was talking about that. That's the first time I've missed the Spring Nationals since '97.
Wow.
And I remember running D's and E features there. So, yeah.
Yep.
And it's not been that way the last few years.
Oh,
I like the fact that Beatrice is trying to get their swagger back because you remember that used to be the best ran racetrack in America.
Oh, yeah.
I remember going when we were traveling all the time. Everybody'd say, where you raced normally? And that was when I kind of split away from here and was racing up at Beatrice. And that place, when Langdale's ran it, was the best ran show. And there was zero favoritism. And they had 4 or 5 of the defending national champions there every weekend.
Yep.
And, we'd get done racing there on Saturday night, and then everybody'd meet at Deschler on Sunday night. So it was the Battle of the Bull Ring up there.
And I think they're going to have a little swing like that.
They
we
are.
were talking Deschler and Beatrice deal. That would be kind of cool.
As far as, IMCA's kind of been the little brother for the big-name racers the last few years. They're coming back. I mean, they got, with Heartland Park joining Thunderhill and running, and then Deschler is going to run some shows. And it looks to me like Beatrice has got something going on there. Salina, our area right here. IMCA is really,
It's
the bang for the buck.
It's been tough for the guys in this area, Lyle. You know this, to run IMCA, to run for a national championship because they can't get the shows in.
That's right. I mean, you got to travel so far to do it.
It's always been come out of Iowa, really, but now it's got a chance for local guys even better.
Mm-hmm. Gas prices, I think, have had a lot to do with the racers being able to do some stuff, and I think that with the tracks going back to IMCA because they weren't able to get the car counts with the open modifieds mainly, but the B mods have put their stake in interest too, and I think that there's enough guys that are going to move up kind of like what they were wanting to because they can afford to.
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
And I hate the crate, but that's what's enabled a lot of it, and I think that with people going back and being able to maybe build some of these lower end motors but yet be competitive, they took the spoiler off this year.
Uh-huh.
I think there's, if Jerry Phillips was 20 years younger, he'd be licking his chops because he would be building some time bombs that would compete with these crate motors.
Yep.
And with me running that little Ford,
yep,
I wish I was able to go run. I know I could win with that little Ford against some of those crate deals. I was close with it, but I thought that the spoiler put them over the edge, and I wasn't able to do that. But, you know, I ran second out here at Salina a couple years ago. I thought I won. And that Clay Sellard was so far ahead, I didn't even know he was out there. I was ready to come out and jump on my hood and everything else, and found out I ran second. So, but I think that's narrowed the gap with them taking that off, with the spoiler off. And there's going to be some guys win some races that we haven't seen win some races in the last few years because of that, and they're going to get back in the victory circle.
You know, we had, of course, Tyler Fry moving up into a regular mod, and he was there. Had a really good showing.
Impressed.
Friday night. He did a really good job.
I'm not going to lie to you. I stood in the stands with Cody Evans, who's the flagman at Hayes.
Sure.
Him and I went up there together.
Sure.
And I told Cody, I said, hey, we're going to see what Mr. Fry is
What
made
he's
of
made
here.
of. You're exactly.
And he went out there and was Mr. Smooth, Mr. Consistent, ended up making the show, and really did pretty good. And I bet that is a huge monkey off his back going into the season, because there's a lot of pressure with him changing car sponsors and getting into different stuff. And I think that he represented himself pretty well.
I think he did. He did really well.
I know that Jay Neal was pretty happy with that.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
He was walking around. Yep. Yeah, that was good to see him perform.
And I agree with you. I mean, it's got to be a huge relief for him. That was under a lot of pressure, and they didn't get the car right away. They just got it about a week or two before Beatrice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe one or two practices on it, and that's it. And
yeah,
that's
they run it. They did take it to Wichita, didn't they? Did they take it to Wichita in practice?
Yep, they did.
I thought that was odd, but yeah.
Yep,
you know, I have seen the guys that were good with B mods move into A mods with that crate and have some success. Sobing,
Jesse
you know,
Sobing,
some of those guys.
Yep.
They were, and I think that's been a easier learning curve from them, rather than jumping in the 800 horsepower modifieds that we had a few years ago. You know, those. Yeah. You know, I remember when I first got going into modified, I was John Force Jr. I needed a tire sponsor real bad and bumper sponsors real bad. So that learning curve has been declined because of the crates.
Now wait, you talked about bumper sponsors, like front bumpers or back bumpers?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know
there was people backing into me, and then I was also getting hit from behind.
Because I know
somebody's backing into him.
Yeah. Because I know for those of people that know you, you know, your nickname is the Hitman. So yeah.
I came by that.
How'd you get that nickname?
You know, actually, I was born and raised in Ogden, and we ended up going to school in Manhattan. And there was 5 of us boys. Well, when we got to Manhattan, we were like the first class that actually integrated with the Manhattan kids. We ran around, we played sports over there. Well, there was a girl named Carla that she named me the mayor of Ogden, first of all. Well, then a couple of the Ogden kids got into some scuffles over there, and I ended up having to help them in the scuffles. And so she renamed me the Hitman. She's like, don't be getting on those boys. They'll get the Hitman. The Hitman will come out there. So, and I'm glad those days are over, because I do not enjoy rolling around in the dirt anymore. But I used to be good at that. So that's how that originated, and it just stuck. Yeah. And then it went away for a long time, and then it ended up coming back, and we ended up getting them on the T-shirts. The tie-dyed shirts had Hitman on them, and you know, the Gallagher section at Salina looked like Woodstock when I broke those babies out. But those were the Hitman 2X T-shirts.
You know, you come from a racing family. I mean, both of your brothers, your dad, all of you guys have raced. It's kind of
where'd you get started
in your blood, isn't it?
You know, my dad did race. He dabbled in it when he was younger, but by the time, you know, my brothers are 12 and 10 years older than me, and so by the time I'd come along, there was old race cars in the yard, but you know, I didn't know what they were used for other than I played Dukes of Hazzard in them. You know? But I showed calves. I got into 4-H and did that stuff, and we were at the state fair one time, and for some reason we got delayed, so we couldn't show. And I jumped the fence. I heard those cars, and I got over there, And I mean, it was game on.
Really?
You must have been faster than me because I tried to jump that fence and got caught and got kicked out and had to come all the way around.
They didn't catch me. And I
got
wish,
me.
you know, I'd have been a millionaire if they would have, because these cars have cost me lots of money. But I just got hooked. And I mean, we're all the same way. There was time I couldn't sleep at night thinking about those cars. And I started doing an enduro deal, and I stole my first motor. I stole it from my mom and dad's station wagon and put bricks in the front of it so it set back down in the weeds. And my dad didn't know it was gone for over a year, and snuck it in a car and went out there and played. And that's how I started, and loved it, you know. And it draws you in, you know. You guys know it as well as I do, and it's worse than any drug.
Yeah.
But you know what? I wouldn't change anything, you know. It took a long time for the light bulb to go on for me racing, but I had opportunities to go race and meet people racing that I wouldn't trade any of those memories for any of that, you know. And Greg Younghands drugged me all over, and that's kind of how I got going in the right direction. And I remember the first time at Lakeside, I come back in, and he said, "Did you go look at the track?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But I don't know what's going to keep me in here." I said, we're going to tear some stuff up. They're going fast out there, and we did. So it was fun. But
Lakeside's wicked with that wall at the end of turn 3, man. Did that ever bother you?
Oh yeah. Every morning I wake up, I had a bad wreck down there and broke my tailbone, and I had Simpson marks where I didn't want Simpson marks for several weeks, but
Submarine belt got you, didn't it?
You don't get dingers at Lakeside.
No,
you get chassis. My car that I wrecked is still at Harris. I mean, they show people. I mean, it made an accordion out of it. You know, it was just crazy. Yeah, and the first one at my window was Jet. He didn't want to know if I was okay. He's like, "Hey, I got a brand new roller ready to go. You can have it ready by morning if you want it." You know, I hadn't even caught my breath yet. So, but yeah, and somebody posted Facebook pictures this week of Lakeside. The guy that was the photographer down there, and that's amazing that that's been 15 years ago. But you know, when I was running down there, that was the greatest show on dirt. You know, the where-to place was Lakeside.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a picture of Stephen Bowers and I down there, and I think he was like 18 years old.
Oh,
you
wow.
know, that's crazy looking back at some of that stuff.
Lakeside's the last one. If Lakeside would go IMCA, that'd be the ticket around there.
Man, I'm sign me up, because I'd like to go around there with 400 horsepower, because it took a lot of horsepower down there back in the day. And I remember praying before I'd go out, "Lord, let me survive 25 laps of hell," because it was, you done left. And I to this day said that Belleville doesn't have anything on Lakeside, and I mean that. I've raced them both, and I know that when it was hammered down at Lakeside, you had to make those corners. You know, at Belleville, it was kind of round. You'd forget where you were at. But at Lakeside, you were going that fast and had to turn. That was scary. So.
You know, it's weird. I mean, and this isn't derogatory. This isn't negative. Salina's like a little paperclip. The turns are tight.
Exactly.
You got to get the car in the corner, and you got to get back in the throttle.
I love racing Salina.
I do too.
And
if you can do well at Salina, you can do well other places.
You know what? And that's true. I mean, you guys have done good at Boone. You've made the show, and you know, several other racers from there have done good. Now, I will say that there's some rough driving at Salina.
Well,
there's some rubbing.
There is.
And there's a lot of
the paperclip corner.
And there's a lot of take and not a whole lot of give.
Yep.
And the guy that you gave in turn 4 sometimes forgets that coming out of turn 2. But and I enjoyed Minneapolis, but I kind of giggled about Minneapolis. I always thought it was way too fast for its talent pool, because that place was fast.
It was.
Yeah.
It
was
there
fast.
toward the end.
You know,
it got fast.
We saw some cars out of the park there because it was fast.
Yeah.
And you know, the first couple times I raced over there, I didn't race the first 2 years it was open, and then I got an IMCA car and ran over there and did good the first 2 nights. And I remember Scotty Phillips saying, "What are you doing clear up there on the top?" I said, "Well, you guys were all down there on the bottom."
Yeah.
And
Can't pass.
then a week later, it was a freight train, and Larry Sutton racked up there, and I think there was 19 of us involved. There was nowhere to go, and it was fast. So, but And Heartland's that way too. Heartland's a stop and go track.
Yep.
And I enjoy it. And I wished I liked Thunder Hill. I just suck there, so I don't like it. But there's guys that go good at Salina that can go over and run real good at Thunder Hill, and that's not me.
You've been in a lot of different cars. You've been in modifieds. You've been in late models. Which did you enjoy the most out of all of them?
I love the A mods, the open late models or modifieds, because you have to finesse that. And it took me a long time to get to that point, but probably the mid 2000s when I got back in the Belleville car. And I got that car going, and everybody made fun of that 4-bar, but I had the 2-link on the right side to where I could keep my car straight, and I learned momentum. And then when I got my Taylor Shaw car, that was probably the funnest years I had racing. I will say that I've had fun last year racing the late model, though. And it's because I'm by myself, and I can keep up with that car maintenance-wise by myself. And it's small enough still that everybody that's in that late model deal they're still giving breaks. I think the more competitive it gets and the more cars we get, we'll probably get away from that, and I hope we don't.
You still got your late model?
I do.
Do you?
I do,
okay.
Yep. And I like that car. And I actually have not been excited about racing, but last race in Wichita last year, I had Corey Richmond came over with me tonight, and he's Chase Younghand's crew chief for his World Outlaw late model deal. And I'm on the phone with those guys all the time. And they were telling me, do this, 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 and this. I'm like, guys, I don't have 900 horsepower to turn this thing. I said, I think we're going the wrong direction. So it took most of the year for me to say, all right, I'm not talking to them this week, and I'm going to go do my thing. And I actually got my car going at Wichita that last race. And I was licking my chops to go back to Wichita this fall, and they canceled for weather or whatever it was.
Weather.
And Joan's like, I haven't seen, my wife, she said, I haven't seen you be down about racing in a long time. So I'm bummed. I wanted to go because I felt like I was going to be competitive. And I will say this right now, the first race is at Hayes, and I've never been there, but I'm going to be bummed if I ain't hanging on to a trophy in Wichita the first time we race down there, if the same cast of characters are there.
Yeah.
Because I think that I can compete, but, I followed Dan Smith a lot this year, and Dan's gotten smoother and faster. And Delbert wrecked that car in the middle of the year and tried to go with it, and then they got that other car. He was fast at the end of the year. Dusty Leonard was fast.
Yep.
And the kid from Wichita,
Chris
Kratzer.
Yep.
He's fast.
Yep.
There's some fast cars in that deal, and I think if we traveled and went and ran some Neesmith at Texas Motor Speedway and those guys went, I think they'd be competitive. And so I think we've got some good cars in that bunch. And, and then
sure.
Scotty won Belleville. He was fast at times too.
Yep.
So, all those cars at times were fast. And it makes it fun to where there's a different person that you think you got to race with every night. And I had some good races for 4th and 5th, so that wasn't just for the win. I had fun with that, but I do miss the A-Mod days, traveling and going and running the, and I miss, I kind of got rolling with some fun guys and learned stuff, and that was fun.
So, plans for this year? What you got going?
Sam Smith stopped by and was like, you need to run those 15 races and go to Salina. And I said, I'm going to try to run the NCRA stuff.
Okay.
And I might want to come to Salina a couple nights. I got another motor this year. I broke a motor right off the bat last year. I wanted to run more than what I did, but I broke one of those bulletproof crates right off the bat.
How'd you break?
I bought a used one, and the valve stuck on it, and the guy that I bought it from said, hey, you need to oil this thing. It ran great at home. I even drove it around the farm and scared the horses, and so I thought it was going to be fine at the racetrack, but it wasn't. So I ended up, Speedway Motors still helps me out with stuff, so I went up and got one 2 weeks later and put it in, and that's the one I got in my car, and then I ended up piecing one together and hope it stays together, so I do have a backup for this year. And I want to run those 15 NCRA deals. If I can make that work, I'll feel like, and that's enough for me. So I want to go run some other stuff. Maybe if I get the opportunity to, I drove the Venom car a little bit, and I talked to Nate, and he's wanting to do a kind of a tribute deal with Grant. And so if we can put that together, I might go run some stuff down there. And I still have my modified, and maybe Nate and those guys, Wayne, will do something with my mod, and we might try to run Heartland Park and maybe just some specials. With Joe Campbell wants to go do some stuff, and he's Kenny Schrader's crew chief that helped build the Venom cars. And so there might be some opportunities to go run some fun special stuff, but I want to run the NCRA deal on my own. So I may go do some other stuff with other guys.
Let's talk. We should have probably started this show out on this deal, but we lost a really, really great guy and
Remarkable young
great
man.
racer. This kid, every time I talked to him, he was always smiling. I never did see him upset or frowning about nothing.
I seen him upset a few times.
Did you? I mean, I know you were a lot closer to Grant than I was, but tell us some stories about Grant. I mean, I know you've probably got some that.
When I first started racing with those guys, we raced out of my house, and Grant and Chase was at my place all the time, and Grant. Probably my funnest story about Grant is a bad one on me, because when I started driving the Shop Quick car, there ain't no hiding it. I sucked. It was bad. And we were going to places we had no business going. But, and that was NASCAR sanctioned. And in order to get into the pits, you had to be a certain age. And whether you signed a release, it didn't matter. And you guys know Mark Olson, and he's a stickler. And so he didn't let any of us bring anybody that wasn't underage, And, I'd go down there and spin out 14 times, wreck the car, and flat tire, and probably be in the back of a B feature, and there was only enough cars to have an A. And so, I was already down on my dander and 3 beers in after the races. And here'd come Grant and have to stay in line for 20 minutes before they'd let him into the stands. And here he'd come, and he's like, I'm up there with my friends, and we're watching you, and you suck. And I said, well, geez, Grant, we're trying as hard as it doesn't matter. We have to get faster. He was just living. So it started at a young age. So he was ready to win.
How old was he then?
When we started, they were 7 and 11. So
wow.
Grant was 11 back
wow.
then. And but he got a lot easier to get along with when he started driving.
Did he?
Yeah. I always said that about John Hardesty.
Oh,
I told Dave, I said, he'd be a lot easier to get along with if you'd let him race that sucker once in a while, because he's just wearing us out. But once Grant started, it was a lot easier for us to, but there's been a lot of emotion over the last couple of weeks with Grant.
I'm sure.
I've been pretty good about keeping it in, but he was a pretty special kid, and he fought long and hard with that.
Boy, he did.
Wow.
He was a warrior, and I often said that I was afraid that Grant didn't have enough grit in his tank to take his racing career as far as his dad would allow him.
Sure.
He had a wheelbarrow full of grit that I didn't know he had.
Yeah.
And he showed that over the last 6 years. And I know you guys are on Facebook, and the outpouring of really touching moments that people have shared, and the stuff that they've brought forward with Grant. He touched a lot of people, not only with his racing, but just being him. And I was kind of surprised at that at first, because he's really he wasn't real outgoing. He was. If you come up and talk to him, he was going to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't seek people out to talk with, but he touched a lot of people, and I think there was a lot of people really rooting for him that were as heartbroken as what I was or anybody was when they found out that we'd lost him on Saturday night.
And obviously, you're close to the family. Of course, I met Grant when you bought that race car from me. That's the first time I was exposed to him, and even then he was young. Then.
Yeah, he went everywhere with me.
Yeah.
I actually we wrecked a car at Lakeside. Imagine that. And we had to take it up to Ron Sardison. I was Ron Sardison's best customer. He was clipping a front end or a rear end every week, it seemed like, for me. But Grant was 12 or 13, and Grant was taller than me at 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So we got to the Odell turnoff, and we were heading up there, and it was like 8:30 in the morning, and I was beat, from working on the car all weekend. So I said, hey, I don't want you telling your mom and dad about this, but you need to get over here and drive this sucker for a little while because I got to take a nap. So Grant drove clear to the other side of Beatrice and let me have a 20-minute nap in between times. So, yeah, he was my traveling partner for a long time. Yeah.
Did he go with you when you took that late model out to Manzanita?
He came down later in the week. They flew down, yeah. And, he was down there for that. And then, he went to he always went to Batesville with us. And we'd go down there and run the World Modified Championship down there, which was a big show like Beatrice. And he traveled with us a lot. And then, when Mark came along to try to steady our ship, Mark Robe, he ended up going with me. If they went out of town, he'd go race with me on weekly stuff. And then, he got his quarter midget, and his mom took him most of the time, but every once in a while I'd take him. And, I was looking through those pictures the other day at him with the smiles, huge, that he's getting ready to tear into this quarter midget, and he got to go race that, that was where he got to race first.
Huh.
So, but, and then he ended up going, he went on his own a lot. He traveled, and then Corey Richmond was his crew chief, and they hit the road when they ran USMTS. When he was, he was supposed to still be in high school, but he graduated early, and they hit the road.
Really?
Yeah, they were racing.
That was so cool here. When was it he won that big show at?
Yeah.
Was it Devil's Bowl?
Yeah, down in
won like a
down in
10,000 to
Texas.
win.
I can't remember what Texas. It was
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah, he
10,000 to win, wasn't it?
Well, I think it was.
And that was his
That was
second
cool.
to last race,
Really?
and it's almost, sometimes you think that stuff happens for a reason,
Maybe.
So he went out a winner, and he, that cancer made him appreciate things a little more, and he worked a little harder at that and appreciated things a lot more. And he inhaled different air than we did. He knew that he was not knowing if that was going to be his last race or not. So he went after it, and that was a storybook ending really to his racing. And then he went up to the Jamboree and went up there and raced, and that's when they did that interview that's been on the
Right.
and it's hard to believe that kid in that video is in with us anymore. So that's tough to get your hands around,
Sure.
So, but he enjoyed it, and he enjoyed talking racing, and he helped other racers coming up. I know that him and Corey Birch were on the phone quite a bit, and you seen what Corey's program picked up last year.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Corey got tough.
Corey got tough, didn't he?
Yep.
And I think that he was relying a lot on what Grant was telling him, and Grant was smart. Grant's a thinker. He thought about stuff, and matter of fact, he wore me out. He thought so much. So it made it tough on me once in a while. So because my talent wasn't keeping up with our thought process. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to with all the everything going on, and they are having a celebration of life for Grant next Monday from I believe it's 5 or 6, and I'm sure it'll be on Facebook, or if anybody they can contact you guys. You guys will know, but a come and go, and for just an appreciation of what Grant's life and what he did and who he affected, and I'm sure that there'll be a who's who show up at that next Monday at the Hilton between 5 and 9 next Monday in Manhattan, and everybody that had knew Grant or had a relationship with Grant is more than welcome to come. So, and that's what they're doing it for. And I think his mom and dad will be shocked at how many people, show up and how many people he, affected in a short time.
Well, I shared that post, and you know this. I mean, you're connected well. When it gets to the point that Clint Boyer makes a note of it, he's touched some lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, Clint's got a lot going on, but, we raced with Clint every Friday night down there at Lakeside, and he knew Grant. And Clint makes a point to come over and talk to Greg and Corey and Chase and them when they're on the road, because he owns those 2 late model teams. And,
sure.
And I realize he's a star in NASCAR and getting pulled from every direction. Clint's always made a point to stop in and say hi to those guys when they're, whether in Florida or Arizona, and that's when you get somebody that's pulled that many directions, it takes the time to do that. That means a lot,
You bet.
So,
You bet.
and that goes a long way. And it probably brought light to a lot of people that didn't know that Grant, what he was going through, and that ultimately had, passed away on Saturday. And all of our phones have been blowing up, with texts and all heartfelt deals, and that helps with the healing process.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So.
Yep.
And you guys, I mean, watching that last video that he got taken, he approached this whole thing just like he did everything else. I got to go up here. I'm going to race here, then I'm going to go on up there and have some cancer taken care of, do some radiation, chemo, whatever it was. And then he's looking at being back in the race car again in the first year.
Yeah.
Obviously that didn't happen, so it must have been worse than what he thought. But that's how he approached it all.
He did. Yeah. He had a good outlook on that, and he planned on going. And this racing thing that we're involved in, we talked about it. I think that kept him going. He planned on racing.
Sure.
He wanted to go race. And, and he had shared with some close friends that he was disappointed and almost felt guilty that he didn't get to go and take them with him what they'd planned on going and doing, which, we realized that that's a silly notion, because he did everything that he could to try to make that dream and, come true. And it got cut short. But, he planned on going. And it's kind of funny how, I've had a couple friends of mine that have gone through that they lean on us when they're going through it, but when it comes down to the end, you end up leaning on them for strength. And I think that a lot of us leaned on Grant's inspiration and his strength in order to get us through. And I hope it's able to carry through and keep us through. So we've got some days to come where we'll be gathering to remember him, and I'm sure that we'll all need to gather strength from him and his spirit.
There's going to be some tough days coming, and then you get better after that.
And there is. Time has a tendency to make things better. And the one thing that I know that I've taken comfort in is I know that Grant was right with God, and that was the most important thing. So him and I talked about that, and I know that he had a relationship with God, and that was able to keep him as strong as he was, and hopefully it'll give us some comfort in the days to come too.
He leaves behind he leaves behind some close family, and he leaves behind a huge extended family.
He does, yeah, a huge extended family.
Yeah.
And from every walk of the earth. Corey and I was talking about that on the way over here. I don't know if we're all prepared for that. He was friends from homeless people in a van down by the river to NASCAR stars.
Sure.
And that is one thing about Grant that I always admired about him, is that he didn't care what walk of life you came from. If you wanted to talk about racing, he had time to talk about it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, if he had a question about a shock or whatever, he'd stop and help, and talk to you about it. He didn't judge people by that, And I think we're all guilty of that, and that's something that I never seen him do. So, yeah, he didn't care I was from Ogden.
he didn't even care if you were the hitman or not, right?
Yeah, I'm anxious for this racing season to get going, and I haven't been, I'm not fired up, or I'd have had my modified up to Beatrice. And, as we were headed up there last week, I told Cody, I'm like, dude, I can't believe I'm not going up there to race. And that's the first time I've ever walked into a pit area and said, man, I'm glad I'm not racing. Hey,
Were there some heavy?
I'm going to tell you that I have some of a cynical side that I don't show often, but I thought there's going to be some stuff tore up here tonight. And I was really surprised there wasn't. There was a lot less tore up than I thought.
There was.
But I did hear Saturday night that the track was a little more hammered down.
They got a bunch of rain.
They got some stuff tore up there Saturday night.
Yeah.
So now that they've thinned that out, maybe I'll get my mod out. So, I know that the race business in general over the past few years has been down a little bit. And I told a couple people, I said, I bet Johnny the Jet is licking his chops that there's going to be some tough tour up here tonight. They'll have an open house. He'll be bringing some money tomorrow.
He'll be selling some parts.
Yeah, they'll be selling some parts up here tomorrow.
Yep.
So, but,
The Jet's not racing these days, is he?
Yeah, he was there. He
He
made
was
the
there.
show.
Oh,
And
he did make
actually,
the show?
he was salty Friday night.
He was. He did
fast.
good.
And,
He had to start way back there.
Saturday night, I guess he didn't make the show, but there was a couple others jumped out. Tyler Fry I was impressed with. I was surprised with Jordy Nelson. Was fast.
Jordy ran good.
Yep.
Yep.
And there was a couple others that run okay that were pretty good, and there was some good cars that didn't make the show. And so I was.
Did you just go Friday night?
I just went Friday night.
Did you see the race from Saturday night?
Yes, I
you
did.
saw that? Yeah. Video.
And, when we traveled, Jay and I are pretty good friends, and I was glad that he kind of got his swagger back because he hasn't been on it the last
Not
couple
since
years.
his big wreck. He's kind of
he
been
tried
off.
to build his own car and
Yep.
some stuff there for a while, and it just didn't work out. But he was rocking and rolling there the other night. And then, Grabowski's been the king up there. And he had some bad luck both nights, but was right up in there.
Yep.
Hey, I want to know what seminar he went to learn how to draw.
Good question.
When I was going to those seminars back when I was trying to learn anything, I
never
remember
said
going
anything
and
about drawing, did
Rex Merritt always had seminar stuff, and I got to be good friends with Rex. And I told Rex one time, he goes, "Do you think there's anything that we need to discuss that we haven't discussed?" I said, "Buddy, we need to discuss drawing because I am terrible at drawing. I think if I could draw better, I'd be the king because I think I start 25th or worse everywhere I go. Just horrible. Just terrible. But
If it's any consolation, and Bobby and I tossed this around a bit about my driving abilities and him trying to help me, but the only night I've ever drawn well was the last night at Salina Speedway. I drew a 2. I was outside pole, and it rained out.
there you go.
I put her back on the trailer.
Been there, done that. And you won. You won that night.
I did.
You could at least tell everybody you finished second.
Yeah.
I was the first one on the trailer. So, hey, there's been many nights at those big shows that I've gone that I had a car to put back on the trailer, and I did feel like I won. When you're looking around the pit, and you're like, oh, wow.
Ouch.
Yeah. We got into the – Randy LaJoy brings up the moonshine every year to Boone, and he rolled up in his golf cart, and he's like, "Are you Lyle?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "We're supposed to hook up. Get in here." So I jumped in there, and we go over to his motorhome, and he's got this big vat full of shine with the fruit in it. So I started to partake in that, and I didn't think anything of it.
Good stuff, huh?
But the next day, I found out that him and I and Jimmy Stannard had a sad contest. We'd gone around and asked guys on a scale from 1 to 10 how sad you were, and we were talking to guys that had totaled race cars. I am surprised that we did not get beat up beyond recognition. But we did lose my four-wheeler that night and didn't find it for a couple nights, so I'm not allowed to hang out with those guys anymore. But
oh boy,
bringing home a race car sometimes can be the best weekend a guy ever had. Yeah.
My poor kid has loaded more race cars with two wreckers, and when you need two wreckers, put them on a trailer. That is not a good night.
Been there, done that.
That is no fun.
My funniest story about Lyle, I think, has got to be when you were driving Chris Heller's car.
Oh.
And you went down to Texas.
Yeah.
And the car fell on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to tell that story.
Well, Chris had got there. The races didn't start till Friday night practice, and he was there like Tuesday. Chris, and he had a kid with him that was his name was Alabama, and he was a great big black guy. And Alabama went all summer with him to race. Well, they showed up. They're down there. It was like, damn, we've been down here for you know how Chris talks. We've been down here since Tuesday, and so. We got down there and practiced, and now I was traveling with the Bones then.
Yep.
So they had that was the first year they were with Hoffman. They had the Hoffman house car, and I had the Jet deal. So we'd gone down there, and we were going to practice the first night out. Well, Chris had his car lettered up. I mean, it was beautiful. He went out there, and you couldn't have turned that car from here to Ohio Street. It would push. And so we were trying to help him. And we had it jacked up, and the jack fell off of the deal, and it smashed Chris's face.
The car was on his head.
It looked like a fish. It looked like a fish. And he said, "Get this thing off of me!" So we picked it up and got him out. He's like, "Man." Well, then it wouldn't start, so they had to prime it every time. Well, Alabama had this like a half oil can full of gas. He was priming it, and it caught on fire. He turns and throws it and lands on me. I'm on fire. I'm doing the stop, drop, and roll routine out in the pit area. And, I mean, it looked like country come to town. It was terrible. And if any of you guys know Tony Bone, he gets serious, like, real quick. And he come over there, and he's like, "Hey, you guys need to stop fooling around over there." He says, "Lyle, get in that piece of junk and take it out there and see what it'll do and bring it in here, and we're going to try to help this kid get going." So I go out there, and the seat is like sitting on a love seat. I got these seat belts on me. I got a cushion underneath me. It was almost like when I drove Lonnie's late model. It was huge. So I'm rolling around in there. I roll down in there after I opened it up, and that sucker launched right off the end of the racetrack, and my wheels are turned completely to the hot dog stand. We roll off the end of the racetrack. So come back in, and Tony starts working on it. He's putting like 15 rounds in the left rear and 20 in the right rear. And it looked like La Bamba when we first started with the front end up. By the time we get done, it looks like a monster truck because Chris had cut the quarter panels out to fit what he had. There was like 2 foot in between the tire and the quarter panel on this car. And finally we got it going. And Chris said, "Dude, that hillbilly might know what he's doing." He said, "But I ain't driving that thing looking like that." He said, "I'd rather run off the end of the racetrack with my wheels turned rather than go out there and win the race with it looking like that." It did. It was terrible, but that was a funny weekend. And it was. We had good times traveling and doing that stuff. And then, I thought I had my car good, and I put Junior Bone in it, and I said, "Go hot lap that and see what you think." He comes back in. He said, "Dude, if you can race that car, you should be in NASCAR." He hated it. He hated it. But
you should be in NASCAR.
Oh, he hated that car. But he looked better in it than I did.
Throughout the years, you've raced a little bit of everything, as Bobby talked about earlier. What's your favorite?
I still... Those mods are fun,
Really?
The big motors and the little tires.
And you had about every brand. What was your favorite? What was your favorite car?
The one I had the most success in was the Belleville car when I won all the races at Heartland that one year and lost the championship. How's that work? But anyway, who knows? I think Gristle sponsored more than I did, evidently. I won 6 of the 9 races and got second in the championship. Come on!
Wow.
But probably my favorite car driving wise was that the Belleville car was good, and then the Shaw car I had was good, and I like that little car I got now. That little Dirtworks car I got. It's a 2010, and poor old thing gets left outside. It's been in the barn all winter with cracked up tires on it. I go get it, bring it in, put new tires on it, scale it, and it's ready to go. And it just drives good. I've had several people try to buy that car. I'm like, no, I ain't getting rid of that one. You know, Wendell Wallace was telling me that every year GRT'd reinvent the wheel. So they'd give him brand new stuff. And for the first 6 races, he'd go out there and try this brand new stuff. He had like a 96 GRT. That car has won more money than you and I could spend in a lifetime. He'd go back to that old car. Once you get used to something, you know, and it is a rubber band. You know, it gets stretched out with different ideas and thought processes on this shock deal's so out of control. But you know, with 4-bar and the swing arm and the, you know, guys going back to leaf springs or whatever, mono leafs or whatever. But if you get a guy that's a good driver in a car that he's comfortable with, that guy's hard to beat. And that was Wendell for years. You know, he won big races in a 10-year-old car. And that's kind of where I am with my old Dirtworks car.
Dirtworks car.
Yeah.
What about that old GRT you brought for me? Did you ever like that thing, or did you hate it?
Oh, I loved it in Casa Grande.
You
know, I never even did anything with it till we got home. I started to make sure it ran. We loaded on the trailer, and John Stroh put my numbers on it. We took it to Casa Grande, and I ran 3rd down there. And I thought, man, this late model deal is like taking candy from babies. So I came home, stripped it down, spent $1 million on it, bought that old aluminum motor, come home, and was the worst I've ever been in anything. And, you know, I found out that we had the wrong ride heights and this and that. And finally, Sam Smith called and said, Lyle, you've got something wrong. Bring it up here. So I brought it up there. He spent one whole day with me. We found out the ride heights were wrong and had a different spring, and a 5th coil was wrong and this and that. And I took it to Thunderhill, hot lapped it, and it ran good. We finally got, okay, I'm going. We went to Lakeside for the MLRA deal. I'm running 5th in that deal, and the motor blowed up.
Oh, God.
And I was in denial. Oh. It's like, no, I think just the hose come off.
Yeah.
Oh, I was sick. I was devastated that motor blew up because that cost more than my house.
That was a killer all aluminum motor, wasn't it?
That was the killer all aluminum motor. And it cost more than my house. I'm not kidding you. I come home and bawled. And I got a speeding ticket on the way home going through Tonganoxie. No. And I come home, and my wife said, did you win? I said, no.
Uh-oh.
Things are bad.
Uh-oh.
So I sold everything that had LM on it, late model, to Yancey Shepard. He came and bought it for pennies on the dollar, and I was so glad that thing was gone. And then I got back in the mods, and it was like free. Free. Yeah, that was a good car. It was. I went down there to Casa Grande, and you know that was my coming out party. You know, yeah. I went down there and got to race with the bigwigs. You know, after the race, you know,
I saw where you finished with that thing. I was like, damn.
Schrader, you know, ran 2nd, and Bill Fry won it. And you know, I had Taylor's over there, and they're like, who's this guy? You know. And it was a lonely ride home, though, I'll be honest with you, because I had my car on the back of Greg's big motorhome, and Mark Robe had raced down there, and they didn't make the show. And so I'm over doing interviews and everything. Everybody's loving on me till I got in the truck, and they're all looking at me like, geez. And so, and it was fun. It was fun. But, you know, and that really did. That was the point that kind of put me on the map, you know, as far as being able to go and race stuff. And I got a lot of calls after that. I raced a lot of different stuff, you know. I had fun in Lonnie's car. You know, the night they caught me with aluminum heads out at Salina, I blew up a motor the night before, and that was the only one I had, was an open motor. So I stuck it in, and they asked me about it ahead of time, and I told them no. I lied and said, no, I don't have that in there. And so then, and I thought I had a free pass to finish outside the top 4 that night. I won my heat race, and the magnet didn't stick, and they DQ'd me. And so I go up and put my car in the trailer, and Lonnie come over and said, hey, I got too much going on. You're going to have to run this late model. And so I just hopped in it and went. Everybody thought I just parked the modified to get in the late model. It worked out great for me. And the funny call was Brett Root on Monday when Brett called and said, Lyle, did you have those on? I said, yeah, they were on there. I said, hang on. How many times did I tech it? I said, only 3. What do you mean? I said, I had them on. You teched it 3 times. Where at? I said, Boone, Knoxville, Night of 1,000 Stars. You are kidding me. I said, no, I'm serious, which I didn't. I didn't have it on there. He hung up on me. He couldn't believe it. It was fun. I actually had more fun with that getting DQ'd than winning the race.
Was that your buddy Dave that caught that?
It was.
Dave Bren
Big
DQ'd
Dave.
you?
Yeah.
He's almost a Manhattanite, kind of a Junction Cityite.
We don't claim him.
You know,
No.
since he DQ'd you?
No. Oh, I knew I had it coming. So I didn't complain about that. I have complained about other calls that Dave's made, but never that one.
You know, you was talking a little bit about your trip down to Arizona and all that. Is that probably the biggest race you've probably done well at, or what kind of sticks in your mind? Which race kind of sticks in your mind?
Well, I won the World Modified Championship race at Batesville 4 or 5 years ago, and I got DQ'd for a couple pounds.
I remember that. A couple pounds light. Yep.
That hurt. That bothered me. I really wanted that. I'd worked all winter for that, and had everything new. I went down there a day early to practice, and
Did you run gas or alcohol back then?
it was gas.
Gas.
Yeah, and I would have won the points deal for the weekend too. That was an extra lot of money.
Oh, shoot.
And I was the only car in the top 5 that wasn't a Shaw. And it did take the sting off of it to have those other guys come over and say, hey, you won that race, But, Jeff Taylor and Peyton Taylor and Moyer and those guys were all there. And, and that did. And I was by myself, and that's probably why I got DQ'd.
Oh.
Nobody else was there to check the scale for me, but that was a long ride home.
Oh,
but that was probably my big win. And then, the night that I won at Salina with my Allen car, I only raced over there a couple nights, and you interviewed that.
Yeah.
And I just had lost my buddy Troy to cancer.
Yep.
And I got to dedicate that to him. And his mom and dad calling me and telling me that they got to see that on YouTube or whatever.
Yep.
And that was probably one of my favorite wins. And then my first IMCA race up in Deschler, I ran Jet, Tronic, Murray, and all those guys, and they didn't have a trophy. I said, you guys, I can wipe my butt with that money. I don't care about that. I want a trophy. And the girl went over in the shack and brought over a trophy that they had left over from the Demolition Derby, and I still have that trophy. And that's one of my favorites. And, my first race over at Junction was probably, because I immediately started traveling after I started racing. I never stuck with one track or anything. I never won a track championship. But to win that first race over there, I remember Bob Springer, it was a trophy dash. He says, hey, how many laps you want to run in this deal? There's you and 4 others. I said, if I'm leading, I don't care if we run 1 or 2. I said, but do not throw that checkered flag till I get the lead. and Toot Craig came over and said, hey, I know that you guys have made a big joke about that, but that's your first trophy, and you'll remember that one more than any. And he said, I know for a fact that trophy cost you several $100,000. So that was a big one, and those guys were influential on me racing. I probably wouldn't be racing if it wasn't for Toot, Roger Peck.
Oh, John Craig, those
he's
guys.
A great guy. Poor Roger, I put my car together every night down there on his, and he ended up having to work on mine a lot more than he worked on his. So, and that was, we were a tight-knit group back then, I remember the first time we went to Beatrice, it was like the traveling circus. There was Danny Payne, myself, Roger, Toot Craig, Kevin Kemp, all went up there. I remember having to wake up my wife on the way home, make sure she didn't suffocate from the gases coming through the floorboards of the Suburban that you could hear it rust, And those were good times.
Yep.
And it ain't the same.
Yeah. No, it isn't.
It ain't the
it
same
ain't at all.
It's
No.
changed.
It has, and
You've even run some truck stuff. You've run
Yep.
some, and have you run some asphalt stuff?
I got to run exhibition stuff for Craftsman, and I did an exhibition deal at Dodge City, and then I got to test a road truck deal for Ford down at Howlett, Oklahoma, and that's kind of a funny story. I'd raced Lakeside the night before, and then I got in with some guys and went down there and woke up, and I thought it was an oval. I get down there and it's a road course. And you talk about,
Wow.
you couldn't have jammed a nail up my butt with a 10-pound sledgehammer. I was nervous when I strapped in that baby. I was like, guys, I've never even seen a road course. You'll be fine. Went out there and I ended up doing pretty good. And I actually had a deal put together with Craftsman. I was going to get to run the Dodge trucks with Bobby Hamilton Sr., and he ended up getting sick and ultimately died.
Yeah.
And that went my deal. I had Cobalt Boats, and Stanton Electric was going to help out for a 12-race deal. And man,
Wow.
Clint, I think, was influential on that because he was from Kansas, and the limelight got showed on us. And then that was in 06 when things went really good for me. And so I thought things were going to go. I was really butthurt when I didn't get to go run those trucks, but I did. I got to race, and the Ford deal that I did was, Dale Jarrett's motor that he'd won Pocono with like 2 weeks prior to that was in the truck that I got to practice. They did a test and tune deal down there, and then I got to go out to Dodge City, which it was fun, but I didn't do real good out there. But I did spin a truck backwards faster than I think I've ever gone forward in dirt. So that was kind of cool. But
Didn't hit nothing?
didn't hit anything.
Oh, boy.
So,
That's good.
yeah, but I thought that was going to take off. I was really, and my drive to succeed kind of went blah after that. I was there and had already made contacts, and they tracked me down, and actually I thought it was a prank phone call the first time. I was running that dealership in Clay Center, and Nayla from Bobby Hamilton Motorsports called me. I could barely understand her, and she said, "You're a hard person to track down." I'm like, "Is this for real?" Put her on hold. She was still there, so I talked to her. So, but I have had opportunities to go race things that, I feel like I win the lottery every day. I got to go do that stuff and got to meet people and drive different stuff and got to go fast. I got to go fast, Dad.
There you go.
And, Wendell Allen, who's John Allen's dad, he goes to Sturgis with me every year. And him and I've got to talk about, different paths to where he started John and go-karts and some of that stuff. And I'm like, Wendell, I was handcuffed to an Oliver tractor when I was that age. I didn't get to do any of that stuff, So, and it's fun listening to other people's experiences or even their takes on you. I've talked to, Waylon and John Hardesty about when I first started, and they were like laughing. They're like, "Dude, you sucked so bad. It was hilarious." We'd
they tell you.
Oh yeah, they'd
tell
have
you.
bets on which corner I was going to drive off of. But yeah, but I've had fun with it too, and I enjoyed stirring the pot sometimes. I enjoyed stirring Bobby's pot.
Yes, you
back
do.
In the day.
Oh, did he
You're
stir
good
your
at
pot?
that.
I'll never forget
I
them
remember
guys.
I
this
don't remember
Lyle
which
story I
time.
got. You know which one that is.
It's hard telling.
The late model at Belleville.
Oh, the hitting the pole.
Yeah, hitting the pole.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
not on my top 10, buddy. Thanks for bringing that up. That was Delbert's fault.
It was.
It's Delbert's fault.
Well, we come around and he jumped the start, so we come around and they wave the yellow flag, and he goes down and stops. And it was either butthole him or run through the infield. So I ran through the infield, picked up speed, and hit the pole.
That poor light pole was flopping back.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Kemp's twins were young then, and they come up, and afterwards, I'm feeling like a penny waiting for change anyway. But I did make that show.
Yes, you
Everybody
did.
forgets that.
No, you made the show.
And that was a stack or two deal. But anyway,
Yeah, I know, we were
they
there.
came over and they're like, "Lyle, that was so funny. You hit that pole and it was going wah, 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 wah. And we thought it was going to fall down. The lights were going to go out." I was like, "Thanks, guys. Go ahead and leave now."
Oh
boy.
Yeah, that was a dark time for me, to be honest about it. I expected to do better than that, but we were up there racing against those guys that are
You were
big
racing
time.
against guys that race for a living.
Yeah. So that was fun. You know, I do want to go, and I shopped this winter. I'm not going to lie to you. I got online and I wanted to buy. I was hoping somebody was in desperate need of money.
Uh-oh.
I was ready to buy a late model turnkey. I want to go run the Show Me, and I want to run the Topless at Batesville.
That'd be
because
fun.
I get around Batesville. I love that
You like
place.
that
I've been
place,
down there so many times, and I found one, and I forwarded the ad to Greg. I said, Greg, what do you think of this? He's like, that ain't got enough horsepower to line up. So I was like, deleted it. I was bummed out. I was ready to go big time. You know, I do that, though. I get online in December and January and go buy stuff, and by
Look at
March,
shit.
I'm really got buyer's remorse. I'm like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, that was dumb.
That was a bad move.
Our producer sent me
shoot.
a text, and he said, you almost did take some lights out. That's why it was going to be a dark time for you.
Hey, I was going to put.
It's
I
good
was.
when Dave can throw a chuckle in there.
Let me tell you what my plan was, just to save face on that. I was going to put West Star Energy on the side of my car and tell them that I picked up a sponsor because our lights will take a hit and stay lit. But I never had to do that.
Can't hear you. That's perfect.
So,
yeah, that works.
Yeah, that was bad. And Kenny Wallace and I have got to know one another since then. And, man, I wear him out every time I see him about that because he's always said, what's my name? Lyle Shepard. The night the lights went out in Belleville. Yeah, it's bad.
You got to admit, that was a good time.
That wasn't a good time for me. I hated that. But I guess
You were in the 2 car then.
that was the
Wasn't it 2?
no, it was the
That
the
was
Fry
Fry's-
it was the
Fry's
Fry
car.
Motorsports
Okay.
machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were several drivers in that seat before you got to it.
She could be mean, you know.
Oh?
She says, "Where's my car?" I said, "Teresa, if you didn't get a helicopter with that new Ace Hardware store you guys bought, it's probably going to be in the infield till sometime tomorrow because it's in no shape to make it back to the trailer." Somehow they got it glued back together, and we went out there, and I think I ran second to B and made the show, and that actually was a soul saver for me. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So, with all of that, and you've talked about some good racing and some good races, do you have a track that you really like? One that really sticks out, a favorite?
I really like Casa Grande, Arizona, which is like a universe away from us, but I've always ran good down there. And I like Heartland Park. I love Heartland Park.
Why?
This is why I think I do. Is because it's
Awesome. Perfect. We turned him off. Here, take this one.
fix that one. It's lit, and I think that I can see good down there.
Oh, that's it, huh?
So I've always gone good down there. And if I could put Heartland Park at every stop along a big touring event,
You'd be good.
I'd be on it.
You'd be good to go.
I'd be on tour.
But doesn't it, as a racetrack goes, doesn't it lay awkward?
does.
Don't you race into the sun?
You do, and hot laps suck. So I don't hot lap. I've learned it's not a hot lap.
Can't see anyway.
Yeah. And you're going to go out there, and your car ain't going to work because it's greasy. And so you're going to come in panic mode and change everything. It's just easier to go get a hot dog and go back out there and race in your heat race.
You eat before you race?
You know, I used to be so nervous that I wouldn't eat for 2 days before I raced. I can eat a hot dog while I'm racing now. And that's probably why I'm not
That's
competitive. You know, when I raced the Venom car,
Oh, God.
they didn't let me touch nothing. And I think that was better because I think I tried to outsmart myself. There's somebody over there. Corey, hook me up. We're out of refreshments.
Miller Lite.
Miller Lite because the Coors is green.
It's getting close to St. Patty's Day, and you don't
Those
want to. You
guys-
don't want a green
I
beer.
don't want a green beer. It makes your stuff do funny things.
Awesome.
So,
Okay.
but I think that was better for me because I think that sometimes I think I'm smarter than what I really am. So it worked out better that they
wouldn't let you touch.
They quizzed me, and then they did stuff to it. And we went out and we was successful. I have a buddy of mine that races a lot down in Texas, and he calls and we back and forth on stuff. And he's like, "Is that car a torque arm or a pull bar?" I said, I'm not sure. I don't have any idea.
They wouldn't even let you look at it, huh?
He's like, "You're lying." I said, "No, really, I do not know if that has a pull bar on it or a torque arm." And he was mad at me for like 2 months. And I seen him over the winter. I'm like, "Dude, I wasn't lying. I really do not know what that was." I said, "I couldn't have told you. It could have been a monoleaf car for all I know." I got in, I drove it, I told him what it was doing. It turned in the middle of the corner, and I loved that.
This is laid back and casual. What's your name again? Eric. Eric's the bartender tonight, sort of. We're good.
We're going to be polite to that bartender.
Thank you.
He's bigger than we are.
Yes. I think he could hurt you.
Yeah. That was fun year racing with those guys. Hopefully we get to do a little bit of that again this year.
Favorite win? And then I got some hard questions for you.
You know, I have a hard time picking a favorite win, but I think that win where I got to dedicate that deal to Troy out at Salina was probably one of my favorite wins. Yeah.
Now, and maybe not everybody knows this, and maybe you don't want anybody to know this, but home life, daughters.
Yeah.
2 of them?
That's why I'm not out racing anymore.
2 of them? 2 daughters?
Yep, 2 daughters.
And they're into horses.
They are. They're into horses, and the oldest one is 10. She's into athletics big time, and she's pretty sporty.
Really?
The youngest one could give less about sports. She don't even know what a ball looks like.
Really?
Any of them interested in racing?
You know, they enjoy. They're Danica Patrick fans, so they get on. They keep track of where Danica's at because, you know, it's a girl out there.
Yeah.
So they can pick out her car. And, they haven't been exposed to racing a lot. Taryn's got to go and see me race a few times, and but Laney's the youngest one's 6. She's been one time, and I think she was playing in the dirt underneath the deal.
That's what they do.
They do. Yeah. I remember Stephen Birch as a little kid, blonde-haired, cotton-haired kid, just looked like Pigpen off the Peanuts. Do you remember that, Bobby, when he was little?
Oh, yeah.
There was a whole herd of those kids over there underneath the, in the dirt.
Running around playing in the dirt.
The kids have been fun, and I grew up on horses, and horses were my thing before racing and girls. They got really in the way of my horse projects, but so I wouldn't trade my childhood for nothing. And so I wanted to give them the opportunity to be able to do that stuff. And we're showing calves and stuff now, and the horses, and the sports. So there's not a whole lot of time for Dad anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of cool with that. I never thought that I'd be that way.
It happens.
I remember Grady Fielder. I said, "Are you racing?" And, "No, we got baseball." What the hell's baseball got to do with anything? Now I know.
Yep.
Well, when I sold you that GRT, my kids were active.
Yep.
Soccer, baseball, that's why I sold it. But that was the hardest thing. You know what hurt me the most on that? Was watching the tears in his eyes when that car left the driveway.
Yeah. Well, I made that car go fast, so he should have smiled.
Yeah, and then you made me pay because I lived right out by the racetrack then, and you'd come and practice on some given nights, and I'd hear you out there, and I'd be like, I'm going to kill him.
It wasn't fast anymore then. I'd already screwed it up.
I'm going to kill him.
I miss the camaraderie of the old racing stuff, and I miss I enjoyed working on those cars as much as I did racing them. And, I worked at Performance Machine then, and I was, in on the motor building and that aspect of it. And then I got to build motors for guys that were racing out of my shop. And a Sunday to me was going out and cleaning my shop, pulling everything out, putting the car in and tinkering with that. I loved it. Wintertime, building a new one, had a TV in the garage mahal and watching NFL while I was building a new car. And I do miss those days. But my race car shop now has a saddle rack in it it's got tractor parts and mower stuff in it, and that bothers me because you've been to my place and
Yes,
you know
I have.
how anal I am
Yes,
about
I am.
Stuff being in its order, and I walk over there now and I'm like, ugh. There's muddy footprints going in there,
Oh,
and I'm
God.
like, that's my painted floor that's got mud on it, and it's hard, but I've learned to kind of just adapt with it, and I still do. I built that late model a year ago, and I had fun putting it together, and Chase and Corey came out and helped me put it together when they, helped me with the body and the spoiler and some of that stuff, and then the year before I put that mod together, and I spent countless hours over there freezing my butt off over there because my heater sucks over there, but I had fun with it. And
Sure.
I still do, and I like going racing. And if I had, a couple people that wanted to go that could help me keep up with it, I'd probably still go. But I'm hoping that, the guys from Topeka want to, if they can take the car and I can show up and race, that's even better.
There you go.
I can't work on them anymore.
Yeah.
And I have a couple street rods that I mess with, and I thought that may pacify me. That stuff sucks. I hate it. I love being able to get in there with no fenders cutting me and hanging upside down. So, and I may hop in there and help some younger people when they come up, and I enjoyed John Stroh and Chad Bukowski. Those guys were racing when I was kind of the older one from the Manhattan area, and since then they've petered out on us. They're not racing anymore. But I think there's some new blood coming up, and I hope there is. There needs to be.
Yeah.
I hope social media doesn't kill this thing.
Yeah.
But they need to get out there and support their local tracks and get some of that fever like we caught. They need to get that. And I hope that maybe I'm able to help some of those guys get going. So.
Way back in the day when Junction City was going good, that was always a fun time to come over there on Friday night.
It was fun.
They got a bunch of cars and good
Yeah.
crowds, and wasn't the most organized place a lot of times, but it was a lot of fun.
I had more equipment break down on the way to the track than I ever did at the track. My race car actually ran my truck and trailer on the way there. I've actually unloaded my race car. This was in enduro days. Put the jack, spare tires, and the toolbox in it and drove it to the track because the trailers blew out. Homemade
Tires,
trailers.
yeah.
And so
Oh.
and I know that when I was going full time that there was a lot of animosity maybe amongst the other racers towards me, but you guys were there when I started. You
Yeah.
know that I pulled to the track with station wagons. It wasn't always, motor coaches and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So I think I did my fair share of that, on going up through the ranks, and I can still pit next to the guys with the Pintos. I have just as much fun watching them guys. And you know what? And Toot Craig told me this one time. He said that guy over there with that piece of junk has just as much pride in that piece of junk
Exactly.
as you do in the $1 million cars.
Yep.
They just haven't had the opportunity to do that. And I've always been that guy that took that to heart. And I've always tried to give back and tried to help those guys. And I've tried to always be approachable from the standpoint of people coming from the stands or doing the post-race stuff and there's been a few people got under my skin, but I've tried to keep my cool over the last few years, and it's been tough.
You got into a couple of fisticuffs over at Heartland
Never.
Park, didn't you?
Never.
Yeah, you did.
Hey, I got into a rough and tumble deal, and I stayed in my car with my helmet
Your
on.
helmet on.
Yeah, those guys, the bigger they got, the bigger they were. The closer they got, the bigger they were. Yeah. So that, I've always had, if it's a racing deal, I could let it go. I've totaled cars in racing deals. It happens. Stupidity really bothers me.
Yeah.
This
And
is
so-
an adrenaline-filled sport.
It is.
You
It
know,
is.
and things happen out there that just
Don't need to happen a lot of times. Yep.
Race on to others as you'd like to be raced.
Mm-hmm.
And that bothers me when I give a guy a break. and they don't give it
They
back.
don't give it back.
That bothers me.
Yeah.
And I keep that in my little black book. I love giving airplane rides on the end of them straightaways. When they don't, it's hard to turn their four wheels when my four wheelers are pushing them. Yeah. You know, probably my favorite Bobby story.
Uh-oh.
This could be, we may have a throwdown here, but I
Go
don't know
for
if
it.
you remember this or not. But when Paul Dutton first started racing, he pitted outside. And I was kind of an outlaw too, so I started pitting outside. And then the following year, they moved the pits out there for all the enclosed trailers. And Bobby'd get there like on Thursday to save spots.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So I rolled in there, and I was there like first one when the gates open, get in there. And Bobby's got like 6 gas cans out
Where
there.
were
He's
we?
like, out at Salina.
Salina?
And he's like, these are saved. And I said, Bobby, I'm pitting right there. I said, I
kinda
left the
remember-
house early so I could pit up here so I
kinda
don't have to
remember
walk. Nope. I said, Bobby, you need to move that gas can or I'm running over that gas can. And he says, we ain't moving it. And I ran over it. And him and Brian were over there trying to pull that gas can out from under my semi-truck. And I was up there giggling. And I thought, that's a classic. I said, one of these days we'll laugh at it. I'm glad we're able to laugh about
remember
that
that
now. They were mad.
Only Lyle.
So, yeah, I was pitting there whether they wanted me pitting there or not.
He got
It's tough. I can make you mad. It's tough to make you mad.
Yep.
Now, the other time I seen these two guys mad, we were in Boone. And in my defense,
Oh,
you
I
guys
remember
started
this.
on the pole.
I remember that.
And it was a last chance. And they
Yep.
were taking 2.
Yep.
And I was in a rent-a-car or some kind. I don't remember whose car was driving. But I'd had a rough weekend anyway. And I come from the back, and I was going. And I gave them guys a couple laps to get their car up from under and get going. And they didn't, so I moved them, and I went on.
Yep.
Brian was mad.
Yeah.
Remember
Brian
that?
was mad. Yeah, I
He
remember
got a
that.
crinkled wheel out of the deal.
Did you get the wheel back?
I bought it for him. Remember, I
Yeah.
called
Did you get
Jerry
the wheel
Phillips
back?
And I said, hey, no. I said, I owe Brian a wheel, so just put that on my tab. And so I think I called you and said, hey, there's a wheel down there, whatever.
Yeah.
But they were mad,
Yeah.
and I missed it by 1. I wouldn't have bought him a wheel if I'd have made it in. I've never made that show.
I've been with him when he's delivered crinkled parts before. It's not always pretty.
Oh, I'll deliver some crinkled stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Now I've had fun racing over here, and I miss a lot of those old guys. You know, when I started, your dad was still racing.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was the new kid. It's hard for me to put my hands around the fact that I'm an old guy now, you know,
Yeah.
because it was, you know, Sammy and Toot, your dad, and I remember coming over. I had more fun betting on them street stocks than I ever did racing. We had $1 on every one of them, and the Borskis.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Hutch.
Yeah.
I'd win money on them guys every weekend because everybody hated them, and they won. The
Yeah.
old number 4 car,
Yeah.
it'd win every time. Yeah, those were good times. I never missed a race. I enjoyed coming over and watching them, I think, more than I enjoyed racing. I could afford to come watch them. So, yeah. Well, you guys got a good thing going here. You do
Well,
this every
thanks.
week? Yeah, it's fun.
During
Yeah.
the winter, we do it every other week. In the summertime, we'll do it once a week. Once racing around the area picks up.
Yeah. No, I
And
think
it's been good this year. We used to do this in my shop. Bit chilly for these
I was
guys.
going to say you guys have kind of classied up a little bit.
Yeah.
The last time I come over, we were at another bar, and I think I had to get an escort to my car.
Yeah.
It was rough over there.
Yeah, we had a rough crowd there for a while.
Yeah, this is an awesome
we
place
like
to
it
have
here.
it. Yeah.
Chuck's Bar, we ought to do that. Chuck's Bar, 600 North Santa Fe.
Yeah, it's great.
Welcome you guys. Come on down. The food's not so bad either. Bobby
Free
likes the
motorcycle
food.
rides if you can get it
If
off
you-
the wall.
He said if you can get it off the wall,
You can
take
ride
it for a ride.
Yeah.
He said you better get here at night, though.
Yeah, late night. Yeah. So, but no, I'm glad you guys have this over here, and you guys have got a track. You know, that was the other thing with Manhattan. You know, I never had any Manhattan sponsors. You know, because we didn't have a track. It was really hard to go in and try to get somebody to put money in something that they weren't able to see a reward for. You know, and I think Salina's always kind of embraced their racing, you know, heritage over here. But and I wish that we had something over there, but you know, and this was You know, going to Salina to race after racing at Junction was like a voyage because of the stuff we drove. I mean, it was like, you think the pickup will make it over there? Well, if I break down, I'm going to, before cell phones, we're going to have somebody call you, and you're going to have to bring the station wagon over so we can go on over there. You know, that was the way it was back then. So, you guys were in on that. You know, I'm steadily working myself back to that.
Yeah.
I'm ready for an open trailer and just a pickup. I'm ready.
Well, the Concrete's got Thunder Hill going, but that's not really a Manhattan track. That's a Topeka track.
No, they and they do have it going.
You don't like that track very well.
I don't, and I feel bad that I don't. You know, I grew up with the Concretes, and we're friends, and I go over there and I race, and I'm going to race late model over there, but I have never done good there. I've raced there probably as much as anybody. I've got 2 trophies from Thunder Hill. That's how bad I am there, and I think everybody else either wrecked or broke. So,
and Junction City's had 2 tracks. Of course, Topeka's had 2 or 3.
Yeah, but my dad raced at the old Junction up on Jay Hill.
Jay Hill?
Yeah, way back when.
You know, your 2 brothers, Cliff and Robert
yep.
both race. You guys share information back? Do you guys talk
You
racing?
can't tell them anything.
Really?
They
are
the
they
most stubborn people on the planet
Really?
Earth. Now, Robert, he'll listen to everybody.
Oh.
And that's what his problem is. And Cliff has more fun working on his stuff and going out there.
Yeah.
He could be the only one on the track and have fun.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I can tell.
You know, and Robert is the same thing that we've ran into. The kids, work. And, you know, there was a time there when Robert was dominant at Salina.
Yeah, I remember.
And,
he was quick.
You know, his car's old and the crate deal, and he's got an open motor, and he had a tough time competing. And I think he'll be able to do better this year.
Good.
But I also think that the shock program has really stiffened competition that can keep up with it. Robert scratches his head and isn't able to keep up with the shock deal. And, you know, I think that's what that is. And, you know, those guys, they have fun with it. They still have fun and go. And I know that Robert he has competitive nature. He wants to run better than he can, but he also knows that he doesn't want to spend the money to put him up to that level.
Yeah.
There's a fine line there.
Tough.
That's the hard part about this is the technology has gotten so much better. The shocks.
It hurts me to think. It hurts my brain to think about that stuff. You know, and I've talked with Jay at BSB before about that. You know, 6-7 years ago, my stuff was what they were using. I don't even want to think about that stuff. I told him last weekend I seen him. I took some shocks back that he let me try. And I said, I didn't get along with these. I said, do you have oil shocks? And he's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, dude, I need to get back to that. And he's like, I'm going to come up with something you can put on there. So he's probably dumbing some stuff up back there as we speak in the laboratory for me to try. Because I just, you know, the stuff that other guys are using now that they're competing with, I don't feel like I'm in the racetrack like I need to be. And I think I'm just behind the times, you know.
Boy, Jay is one smart guy. I mean, to sit down and talk to him,
yep.
He gets to going. And
he's fun.
Gosh,
you know, him and I hang out when we go to those big races.
You almost need to stop him and say, you know, whoa, I got to take all this in for a second and then let him start again. Cause, he
has enough guys out there now that he can call and get different ideas. And and I was that guy a long time ago, but I'm not that guy anymore. I called Tony Bone. I said, hey, I want you to go out in the shop, and I want you to get the shock absorbers off Junior's car and send them to me. What do you mean? I said, just do what I'm telling you, and then call me and tell me what I owe you. I said, mark where they go. Well, don't you want to know what they are? I said, absolutely not. I want to know if it goes on the right rear, the left front, where it goes. I don't want to know nothing about it. And that helped me. You know, I had that last Belleville car I had was that Mars car, and that car was awesome.
Went good.
And I screwed it up with shocks. And so that's when I put those other ones on there. Didn't know what they were. And that's when the light bulb come on to me that maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was. So, and I actually have, there's a certain group of guys I trust, and I've actually been listening to some of those guys. So, but I'm the one that got the late model going good.
You're the one. You got it going all by
and
yourself.
And I wore them guys out. I said, you guys don't know nothing. I'm ready to get on the World Outlaw Tour with my crate now. Sucker turns in the corner. So, Bill, you've been awful quiet tonight.
I've been letting you talk and listening to you. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm good at talking.
That last car I got from you, I called Tater about it over at Mastersville.
Yeah.
Tried to sell me a new one.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He likes that car, but he said you'd do better in a new one.
He's a salesman.
Yes, he is.
Like me.
Uh-huh. Oh. Yeah. I hope I do better with this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine, You know, and I've talked to...
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. Wait till I get a hold of Bobby after the first race and he tells me to point it at the infield.
When I went over to the World this past fall and talked to some of the guys over there that I used to race with that are actually racers, I was telling them about the crate deal. And they think it's great. And they think what we're doing with these cars is good too. There's a certain limit to what you can put on those cars to go fast with those big motors. And these older cars like what we got are perfect for what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I bet if you went out and took a poll of guys that are racing just to go race, not the house sponsored cars, not the the cars that are out there, the Ronnie Johnsons and stuff winning the championships and stuff, just your run of the mill cars. I bet on an average they're from 05 cars to 2012 cars. They're not 15s and 16s with everything brand new stuff.
Right.
It's not needed.
No.
And that's what's going to make this class
go.
You
don't need a brand new car.
Right. The tires. Hey, Corey, I bought those brand new crate tires. Come home. We spent a weekend up there carving the hell out of them, making them go. Went out, wore a brand new right front out. We don't even I sipe them. I don't even groove them anymore. I got a couple tires that I run in the mud, keep them clean, keep them brushed off. The other ones, the more rubber on the ground, the better off we are in this crate deal.
Yep.
That's why I can do it by myself, to where I don't have to have a tire guy, a shop guy, and
And that's what makes it fun, I think. Is
Yeah.
you don't need well, I need, but that's beside the point.
You got Bobby, and
No, I don't.
Bobby, we're glad you got him.
Yeah.
No.
He's going to come scale it. That's about what we're going to get out of Bobby this year.
Yeah. Hey, your guys' program picked up once you got that crate deal.
Brian's having fun again.
Yeah.
Yep.
The nuclear banana had way too much horsepower, didn't he?
I don't. It must have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he was the first one really at this
Yeah, we were
area
the
that
first one to
popped
get a
on
crate.
that deal, and
Yep.
and he went. So, yeah. So
Yep,
and
we're
I
liking it.
fought against that, but maybe it's the way to go. But my deal against the crate deal was the loyalty to the people that had sponsored IMCA for as long as they did.
Here's the deal, and my thoughts is there's a lot of machine shops around, even in the state of Kansas, that built racing engines for a long time, and I didn't want to put those people out of business. There's a lot of good guys that do that.
We used to do a lot of business with Jerry
I
Phillips.
know.
Think of every one of those stickers that were on our cars for years.
Oh yeah.
With the melling oil pumps and all the stuff.
Yeah.
Those EQ heads, dart, all that stuff.
But what the crate showed us was we didn't need all that horsepower.
Well, let me tell you something about that. And I'll argue guys with this till I'm blue in the face too. The engineers on them crates are a lot smarter than our engineers that are at Jerry's shop and my shop.
Well, okay.
True.
Sure.
Because those motors run good for what
run
they
good.
are.
For what
Yeah.
they run good.
The power band in those are really smooth and long. And I'm not going to mention any names, but there's guys that have been out running me for the last years that can't spell race car because they got
Grabowski's car,
Be
So,
fast.
You think they would
You
be?
bet. Those guys are racers, and they're good. Like them or not, they're good racers. Jet. When Jet was on his game back in the late 90s, early
boy.
2000s, and I was out there. Stryrocks, those guys, the Hughes, Gustins. Jet was better than those guys.
Yeah.
And he can jump in an open motor and still race. But there's guys that are racing at your local tracks that got crate motors in now. And there's still the same clowns that were in them cars before those crate motors. And you put a good open motor in their stuff, and it's game on. Yeah. So, and you guys know, those guys are good guys. They just ain't good racers.
Yeah.
But they've pretended to be because they got crates.
They got
and I
crates.
will argue with that until the day I die. So,
I like the crate. I like the crate in the late model thing.
yeah,
I do.
me too.
A lot of guys don't.
No. The crate deal and the modified deal, I think, has uglied that class up. I really do. You take it away from the drivers. I've seen David Murray do things in cars that other people can't do. Jets, some of those other guys that race IMCA and are IMCA grassroots guys, and you're not going to see that anymore with crates. They're gone.
Yeah, David, he's one of the few that's he's still trying the open
Yep.
motor. He's still trying to make it work, and
Yeah,
you could tell he's
Jay Notaboom,
struggling.
he had, when it first came out, he got one, raced it 3 times and sold it. Hated it. Did he have an open motor in this weekend?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'll find out. But
Be interesting. No.
yeah, because I think we're going to see some open motors outrun them
Come
crates
back.
this year. Yep. Yeah.
It'd
I
be
know they're
interesting
getting
to
it
see the
figured out.
combination. I don't think we need to see some 421s and stuff like that back out there.
No, and those
No,
days
you
are
won't
probably gone.
Yeah.
But the late model deal is that there's open late models and then there's crate late models, and I'm cool with that. And it's not just because I got one. It's just that late model deal. I've been on both sides of that,
It's expensive.
and I know what it feels like to blow up a $40,000 motor.
Yeah.
yeah.
That
hurts, don't it?
hurts. Yeah, that can put a strain on your marriage. One of the funniest Facebook posts I've seen was a guy crying. I said, "Why are you crying?" "My wife sold all my race car stuff for what I told her I had in it." I love it.
We are going on 2 hours, guys. We need to probably
No way.
I'm
this
ready to
up.
wrap
Yeah.
up because I got to go to the bathroom.
How do you want to close this thing up, Lyle? I'm gonna let you know we ought to remember Grant for a minute. And, and tack into your season what you got going on. I'll let you run with it.
I'm planning on running as much of the NCRA stuff as I can. If I get some help, I'm going to run some mod stuff, and I'm looking forward to running that. I love running those cars. But to wrap up you guys' deal, I would like, just to take a moment and reflect on, Grant. Not only was he a good racer and got to venture out and do some things racing-wise and bring some notoriety into our neck of the woods. A lot of people followed him where he was going. But he ended up being a way better person than what he was a racer. And I know that sounds crazy, but cancer made Grant a better person. He was more patient. He was more willing to listen and to take people's ideas, not only on racing but in life in general. And I think that he ended up being a pretty good person. And I'm glad that is the thing that jumps out at me. I mean, there's people, we all know them. There's people that are the best racers in the world, and they're not very good people. And Grant ended up being a good racer because he worked at it, but he was a better person than what he was a racer. And I think that hopefully, his awareness that he brought forward to what he fought with cancer and stuff may be an influence on someone else that gets that or gets healed because of what he went through.
Exactly.
And he's going to be missed. I mean, I've known that kid since, like I said, when he was 10, 11 years old, and I'm close with his family, and no parent should have to go through what they're going through.
Oh,
yeah, it's
and
tough.
that's unbearable.
I've got bad enemies, and I wouldn't wish that on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. No parent should have to go through this at all.
And
just it's tough to say. It's just tough to say. I hoped and prayed that he'd beat it. I
Yep.
really did.
And he did for a long time.
They did.
Grant got to do things that other people don't even know exist.
Yeah.
In the last 6 years, got to go do things, meet people. Had people come up to him and say, "Hey, I read about your deal," or I seen something on Facebook, or I seen something on YouTube, and I don't know nothing about this racing thing, but you're a good guy, and I'm rooting for you because of the person that you are. So
That's cool.
and that makes you feel good when somebody does that, And I won't mention names, but Grant got a text last week from somebody that he wasn't really that close with, but expressed to him about eternal life and hope that he had his life in order with God and after your time here on earth. And I probably shouldn't say this on the radio, but that takes big balls
No, you're fine.
for somebody to
Yeah.
somebody that you're not that close with almost a really touchy and uncomfortable subject, to just come clean with that and talk about their relationship with Jesus Christ, God, and all that along those lines. And I'm going to reach out to them later on and tell them that that's the one thing that jumped out at me that Grant got to experience, So and I feel glad that he had that relationship with God.
Yep.
So, well, guys, I'm going to have to go to the bathroom sooner or later.
Lyle, thanks for coming over.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Good to see you. We'll do
And-
this again sometime.
Wow,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was on a long time ago, and
Yeah.
you guys have classied it up since then, so
Yeah,
that
a
was
little
cool.
bit, huh?
And again, I invite everybody over that the new Grant or the Young Hens family, or that or followed them. If you want to come over and sign your name on the plaque that we're going to have over there.
Where's it at again?
It's going to be at the Hilton Garden Inn on Monday, the 21st, from 6 to 9 p.m. And it's going to be a come and go. It's casual dress, and there's going to be a lot of laughter, and there's going to be some tears, and it's going to be, come over and share your experiences with Grant, or with, there's going to be racers from all over there that, surely there's going to be someone there that everybody can match up with and enjoy the evening and show their support.
Where is that Hilton Garden Inn? Is that new one they
It's
just built
actually
up?
right on the right at the corner between 4th and 3rd Street on Fort Riley
Fort Riley
Boulevard.
Boulevard, right there.
Get on I-70 and come to Manhattan. You'll run into it between 3rd and 4th Street.
Okay.
Yep, there's indoor parking in the garage. It's free.
And then if you knew Grant or anybody, if you're a
You
racer,
bet.
you want to go over
You
there
wanna
and visit,
come over and
go on over.
Share an evening of of companionship amongst racers that have the same stuff in common as what we do, and and celebrate the life that was cut way too short for Grant, but a lot accomplished in those 27 years.
Okay.
So
We'll do
thanks
it.
for having me, guys.
Thanks, Lyle.
You bet.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Lyle.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Okay.
For Bobby Potts, Bill Grit, David Cheria. Didn't get Dave on the mic very often tonight, but that's okay. He had it there in case we need it. We lost Lyle. He had to go to the bathroom. Good show,
Hey,
Bobby.
before we leave, I want to invite everybody over to the mall this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have the Slide and Speedway car show.
Yours
there
gonna
at the
be
mall.
there?
Nope. It's either mall show or race next weekend.
Race next weekend.
I want to race next weekend.
Yeah. My guys are trying. The people that are working, they're trying, and
So
we'll
it's
see.
always a good time over there. Come over and see all the nice shiny cars where they're still.
It'll
while
be
they're
the first
still
time
new.
you see them all nice and pretty and straight.
Yeah. So
For Bobby Potts, Lyle Shepard, Bill Grit saying so long right here from Chuck's Bar and Grill, 600 North Santa Fe. This was a different show, folks. A little longer than usual. Wanted to remember the life of a great racer, a great young man taken way too soon. Rest in peace, Grant Young Hands. we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and then it's going to be radio time, folks. It's not going to be too much longer. We're going to be on the air. So thanks for joining us all winter long. We got one more show like this, and then we'll go back to the radio. See you in a couple of weeks right here from Chuck's Bar.